Many years ago, in the sun-kissed village of Ashi, where children ran barefoot under mango trees and women pounded yam to the beat of gossip, lived a young woman named Mira. People in Ashi loved to talk, but no one, absolutely no one, could talk like Mira. Mira wasn't just a beautiful girl. She had that kind of glow that made people stare twice. Her skin looked like smooth cocoa butter under the sun, her eyes bright and curious, always scanning, always listening. Her legs were long, her back straight, and her smile as quick as her words. But even with all this, what made Mira famous, even feared, wasn't her beauty, it was her mouth. Not the shape, no, it was what flew out of it day and night like wild parrots in the sky. Gossip, hot, spicy, raw, and endless. If anything happened in Ashi, a baby cried weirdly, a couple fought in their bedroom, someone bought tomatoes on credit and refused to pay, Mira knew, and not only did she know, she would add salt and pepper to the gist before feeding it to the whole village. Her mouth ran faster than the church bell during Christmas service. She was faster than the town crier, faster than the market radio. People even joked that before news reached God in heaven, Mira had already spread it. To 5 people and a goat. She called it a gift. Some people get money, me I get mouth. Is it a sin to help people stay informed? She would say with pride. Her mother had tried everything to stop her. Threats, begging, prayers, even fasting once. But Mira was like the Harmattan wind, dry, sharp, and impossible to hold. "Mira," her mother would scream, hands on her waist. "I didn't give birth to a newspaper. Must you involve yourself in every matter?" But Mira would just laugh. "Mama, if I don't talk, who will? You people like to act holy, but you all enjoy small gist now and then." She wasn't even wicked. That was the strange part. Mira never used her gossip to hurt anyone on purpose. She wasn't mean. She wasn't jealous. She just loved to talk, She treated gossip like treasure, something precious to be collected and polished before display. She had methods, too. Every evening she sat outside with roasted groundnuts, pretending to read a Bible or a magazine, but her ears were open. Like satellite dish. If someone passed with a man too handsome to be her brother, marked. If someone came home crying quietly, saved for later. Mira could turn one innocent event into a full novel in 5 minutes. The people of Ashi started to walk like they were stepping on broken glass. Even children were warned. "If Mira asks you anything, say you don't know." Men stopped greeting her in public. Women crossed the road when they saw her. But no matter what they did, Mira's mouth only grew busier. Then came that Saturday. A hot, quiet afternoon. The kind of heat that made animals sleep like drunkards. Everyone was indoors, but Mira, as usual, sat outside her compound, sipping cold zobo and using her old hand fan like a queen. She wasn't reading, not really. Her ears were doing the real work. She heard Mama Doris shouting at her teenage daughter about a missing phone. Mira smiled and whispered to herself, "I'll keep this gist warm. It will serve well later." But then something changed the air. Mira's smile faded. Down the road came Mama Sidi, the strange old woman from the far end of the village. People rarely saw her during the day. Her clothes always looked old. Her walk slow, dragging one foot like it owed her money. Some called her a witch, others just said she was not ordinary. Everyone respected her, not out of love, but out of fear. They said she used to be a powerful healer before she became silent. That a man once cheated her, and his roof caught fire during the rainy season. That a goat entered her compound once and came out weeks later with baby goats that had human eyes. Mira had heard all of this. She never believed any of it. "She's just a lonely old woman," she would say. But that day, as Mama Sidi passed by, she did something Mira could not laugh off. She stopped in front of Mira's compound and started talking to a flower. Yes, a flower. Not praying, not humming. Talking. Mira sat upright, her drink forgotten. The plastic cup of zobo tilted in her hand, a few drops spilling onto her wrapper, but she didn't even notice. Her eyes were fixed on Mama Sidi. The old woman bent slightly, still whispering to the flower near Mira's gate. It was a hibiscus plant, ordinary, nothing special. But the way Mama Sidi touched it gently, like greeting an old friend, and the way her lips moved in soft conversation sent a shiver down Mira's spine. For the first time in a long while, she was speechless. After what felt like forever, Mama Sidi turned her head slowly, her eyes dark and deep like muddy river water, met Mira's, not blinking, not smiling, just watching. And then she said, in a voice so low it almost melted into the hot air, "You should be careful, child. Mouths can open doors, but some doors don't close." Mira blinked. "Eh?" But the woman was already dragging her foot away, disappearing, slowly down the road like smoke. No dramatic exit, no thunder, nothing. Just the heat, the silence, and that sentence echoing in Mira's head. She sat there frozen. For a girl who always had something to say, this moment left her tongue dry. Later that evening, she told her mother what had happened. "Mama, that woman, Mama Sidi, she was talking to my flower, I swear it. Then she looked at me and said strange things about mouths and doors." Her mother dropped her broom mid-sweep and crossed herself 3 times. "Jesus of Nazareth, Mira, listen to me now. I've told you to leave that woman alone. This is not gist, this is warning. That woman is not like us. Her eyes are always too calm. Her shadow bends the wrong way. Please, my daughter, stay away." But Mira, though still shaken, laughed it off by night. "I beg, Mama. People talk to pets. People talk to pictures. Maybe she was praying or something. What kind of curse can one sentence carry? She's just old and lonely." Still, something in her felt strange. The next day, as usual, Mira returned to her routine. Church in the morning, market in the afternoon, sitting outside in the evening. But somehow things didn't feel the same. She couldn't explain it, but people weren't giving her that usual energy. It was like the air had changed. People weren't smiling at her anymore. Some even avoided eye contact. At first she thought maybe she had missed some major gist. Maybe someone died or got caught cheating, and she hadn't heard yet. That alone annoyed her. So she started digging harder. That evening, she walked into Mama Kulu's store and greeted her cheerfully. "Good evening, Mama Kulu. You day well? Anything for me to know today?" Mama Kulu barely looked up from her Gary. "I day fine, Mira. No news-o." "Nothing? Not even small fight or love matter?" she joked. "Mama." Kulu shook her head slowly. "No gist for you today. Maybe ask the flower at your gate." Mira froze. "What did you say?" Mama Kulu looked her dead in the eye. "You heard me." Confused and embarrassed, Mira stepped out quietly. Her heart beat faster. She felt like she was being watched. Eyes followed her from behind curtains. Whispers passed as she walked by. She got home and sat quietly on her chair, watching the hibiscus sway in the light breeze. For the first time in years, her compound was quiet. No one passed by to greet. No child came to play. Even the birds avoided her fence. The next morning, Mira woke up feeling heavier than usual. She got up, washed her face, and stepped outside. And then she gasped. The hibiscus plant was gone. Uprooted, not cut, not plucked. Just gone. Not a single trace. Just fresh earth. Where it used to be. She looked around. No footprints, no tools, nothing. Like it had vanished into thin air. She turned back toward her house, and then saw it. On her wall, scratched faintly into the mud brick near her door, were 4 words. "Doors once opened, speak." Mira stared at the wall, her heart pounding like village drums on festival day. "Doors once opened, speak." The words weren't just written, they were etched, like someone used a sharp stick or nail, and yet she hadn't heard a sound. No footsteps, no visitors, no whispers, and no sign of Mama Sidi. She stood there frozen, trying to find breath. Her gossip-loving mind wanted to spin a story, explain it somehow. Maybe kids played a prank. Maybe it was a neighbor. But deep down, in her stomach, something told her this was not ordinary. That day she didn't sit outside. For the first time in years, Mira didn't chew ground nuts on her plastic chair. She didn't visit the market. She didn't go to Mama Philo's stall to pretend to buy pepper just so she could hear quarrels. She stayed inside, quiet, listening. But silence can be dangerous when your whole life has been noise. By evening, the itching started. Not on her skin, but in her mind. She couldn't sit still. She paced. She kept thinking about what Mama Doris might have said after the phone fight, about who Mama Chin's daughter had been walking with last week. The need to speak, to release what was bubbling inside her, came like hunger. She felt like her chest was swelling. So, just before sunset, she gave in. She rushed down to the well where young girls usually fetched water. She saw Kemi and Toka, two teenage girls laughing and chatting with buckets beside them. Mira smiled, heart racing with relief. At last, someone to talk to. "Ah, my sisters! Good evening, oh!" she sang out. They paused, looked at each other, then looked at her. Kemi nodded slightly. "Evening." Mira smiled wider, trying to sound normal. "Have you people heard what happened near Mama Doris's house?" Let me tell you." But before she could finish, Toke raised a hand. "Mira, I beg, we're not interested." Mira blinked. "What? I haven't even said—" Kemi shook her head. "Everybody warned us. They said if we talk to you, we'll lose our peace, that your mouth has brought something into this village." Mira stood there, jaw hanging open. "Lose peace? Who said that? Who is saying this rubbish? Ask your flower," Kemi replied softly. And they walked away. That night, Mira couldn't sleep. She turned and turned on her raffia mat, sweat soaking her clothes, even though the window was open. Her room felt heavy, the air thick, her throat dry. And then, as if from nowhere, a voice, not loud, not from outside, from inside her own head. "Let the doors speak. Let them speak what you fed them." She sat up with a gasp. "Jesus!" She cried, clutching her wrapper to her chest, but her mouth wouldn't stop moving. She didn't want to talk, but words began slipping out. Pastor Felix's wife caught him with the choir girl. "Chinello's baby is not her husband's." Agnes has been taking money from the cooperative fund," whispers, pouring out of her in the dark. Secrets she had heard, secrets she had shared, secrets she had created, all of them pouring from her lips like she had no control. She covered her mouth, bit her lips, cried. But the words kept spilling, quiet but constant, like the doors had truly opened. And now they were bleeding. By morning she was exhausted, red-eyed, lips cracked, voice hoarse. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. She tried to step outside again to fetch water and act normal, maybe laugh it all off. But as she reached her gate, she froze. Another message scratched into her wall. "You fed the wind. Now listen to the storm." And under the message, lying in the exact spot where her hibiscus used to be, was her Bible, open, wet, and growing small black mold across its pages. Mira didn't touch the Bible. She stood over it, staring, heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The sight of the mold creeping across the holy pages made her skin crawl. Something inside her broke in that moment, not just fear but shame. She had never been particularly holy, but even she knew this wasn't normal. Mold doesn't just grow overnight on dry paper. And why that Bible? She hadn't opened it in weeks, months maybe, except to pretend read it outside while fishing for gossip. Slowly she backed away. She shut her gate gently, like something evil was waiting on the other side. Inside her house, she locked the door and sat on the floor, trembling. She didn't know if she should cry, scream, or pray. Her mother wasn't home. She had traveled to visit an aunt in the next village. Mira felt alone, truly alone for the first time in her life. Her usual audience, the people she used to pour words into, had vanished, and now her words had turned on her. She hadn't spoken a full sentence since the night before, not out loud, but the voices in her head. Those were louder than ever, whispers, not her own voice anymore. Other voices, familiar ones. She heard Mama Kulu's voice crying when her son was arrested. She heard Brother Sola's trembling confession about his gambling. She heard girls weeping about things they had whispered only to each other in confidence, things Mira had overheard and turned into village entertainment. And she realized something terrible. These were the secrets she had stolen, not earned, not discovered, stolen. Bit by bit, the village was vomiting her truth back at her, not the lies she had added, but the pieces of people's pain she had, snatched and served like supper. By evening, she couldn't take it anymore. She threw on a wrapper, didn't bother with slippers, and ran. Through the dusty path, past her neighbors who turned away or stared silently. Past the well, past the market, past the old mango tree where children once played and scattered when she approached. She ran straight to the edge of the village, to Mama Sidi's compound. The air was different there, cooler, thicker. The compound was dark, even though the sun hadn't fully set. The old mud house stood silent, cracked, yet untouched by time. There were no chickens, no cats, no noise, just silence, like the ground itself was holding its breath. Mira stood outside, the bamboo gate too scared to knock. But before she could even call out, the door creaked open, slow like an invitation or a warning. Mama Sidi was standing there, no smile, no anger, just those same heavy, knowing eyes. "I thought you'd come," the old woman said. Mira fell to her knees instantly, shaking. "Mama, I didn't mean to. I didn't know. Please help me. I can't stop hearing them. My mouth won't stop. I've ruined things. Please, I don't want to talk anymore. I don't want to hear anymore." Mama Sidi didn't move. "You carried words like weapons. You wore stories like clothes. You swallowed secrets and vomited curses, and now you come to ask for silence?" Mira sobbed. "Yes, please, anything. I'll do anything." Mama Sidi walked slowly toward her, bent down, took her chin gently between two dry, wrinkled fingers. "Words are alive, child, and now yours are hungry," Mira whimpered. "But," Mama Sidi said softly, "hunger can be turned. Even poison has an antidote." Hope flickered in Mira's chest. "Tomorrow," the old woman continued, "you will return here before the sun rises, alone, no shoes, no food, no water. You will bring something you've never shared, a truth, your own, not about others, about you. Only then will the doors know peace." Mira nodded desperately. Mama Sidi released her face. The gate closed without sound, and Mira stood up slowly, heart beating wild, her mouth dry, her mind spinning. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. The next morning, before even the roosters could clear their throats to crow, Mira was already walking barefoot toward Mama Sidi's compound. The ground was cold, still damp with night dew. Sharp stones pressed into her soles, but she didn't stop. She didn't look left or right, no makeup, no earrings, just her plain wrapper and the truth she carried in her chest, a truth she'd never spoken out loud before. Her feet ached, her lips were cracked, her voice was still gone, but not because she couldn't speak, because she dared not speak anymore. Every word now came with weight, with memory. And what Mama Sidi had asked her to bring, that was the hardest part. A truth she had never shared, not a gossip, not someone else's pain. Her own. She stood at the bamboo gate again. She didn't knock this time. She simply waited, heart pounding, and the gate opened on its own like it had been expecting her. Mama Sidi stood in the same position as the day before, dressed in the same wrapper, same scarf. But this time her eyes were softer, older, sadder. "Come," she said simply. Mira followed. The inside of the compound was nothing like she expected. No skulls, no potions, no black smoke or hanging charms. It was just a compound, quiet, neat, with a small shrine in one corner made of clay and smooth stones, and a mat laid out under a short tree. Mama Sidi sat down on the mat and pointed to the ground across from her. "Sit, speak, let your own door open now." Mira sat. She stared at the earth for a long time, her throat tightening. Her fingers shook in her lap. She tried to begin 3 times. Her lips moved, but her voice didn't come. Then finally, it came out. "I lie," she whispered. Mama Sidi didn't blink. "I lie about people, because I'm scared, because I don't want anyone looking at me too closely." Her voice trembled, but it kept going. "I talk all day about who's cheating who failed what, who said what, because if people are looking there, they won't look here." "Where?" Mama Sidi asked gently. Mira looked up slowly, tears gathered in her eyes. "I was born from shame," she said. "My mother doesn't talk about it, but I heard. I was the result of a mistake, a rich man, a married man. He never claimed me. My mother struggled to raise me, and people whispered all through my childhood. I learned early that talking louder than them was my only defense. Mama Sidi nodded once. So your mouth became your shield? Mera nodded. It gave me control. I made people fear me. If they feared me, they wouldn't hurt me. But you did hurt them, Mama Sidi said. Mera swallowed hard. I know I did. I know I did. For the first time in a long while, she was truly naked. Not in body, but in soul. She had never said these things before, never let them breathe, and now they were out. The air shifted slightly. A soft breeze moved through the tree above them. Mama Sidi reached for a small clay bowl beside her, dipped her fingers into it, and sprinkled something over the ground. Ash, maybe, while whispering words in a language older than Ashi itself. Then she looked up. The doors are listening, she said. Now you must walk backward home, step by step. Don't speak, don't turn around. If you hear anything, even your name, don't answer. When you get to your gate, knock once. If your hibiscus has returned, the doors are closed. Mira's hands shook. And if it hasn't? Mama Sidi didn't answer. Mira stood. She turned, away from the old woman, and began walking, one careful step at a time, backward. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. And then, halfway home, she heard it. A voice, familiar, calling sweetly. Mira, Mira, come help me. Please, it's your mother. Her legs trembled. Her mother? The voice came again. Mira, come now. She's not breathing. Her lips quivered. Her chest rose and fell. Every part of her screamed to turn around. But then she heard another voice, her own, from within. You've run your mouth for years, just this once, run with silence. She kept going, backward, step after painful step. And finally, she reached her gate. Heart in her throat, she turned slowly and saw it. The hibiscus, right where it had always been. Fresh, blooming. And beside it, lying neatly on her step, her Bible. Clean, dry. Open to a page with a single verse underlined, "Let your words be few." From that day forward, something shifted deep inside Mira. She woke up the next morning, not with excitement for news or village whispers, but with a calm quietness she didn't recognize in herself. For years, she had lived on noise, like a bird that only survived by chirping. But now silence was no longer scary, it felt safe, like fresh air after rain. She stepped outside, barefoot, and saw the hibiscus plant still there. Not just there, stronger, the leaves fuller, the flowers brighter. It looked like it had never been touched, almost like it had never left. Mira bent down beside it and whispered, "Thank you." She didn't know why. She just felt it in her spirit. The Bible was still on her doorstep too. She picked it up slowly, turned the page from where it had been open, and read the next verse. Out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. And that's when it hit her. Her mouth hadn't just been a weapon, it had been a mirror. It reflected all the things buried inside her heart. Pain, fear, shame. All the things she had refused to face. All the things she had tried to cover by exposing others. She spent that day cleaning her compound, not because it was dirty, but because she needed to do something. Her mouth rested, but her hands moved. She didn't go to the market. She didn't sit by the road. She didn't even open her mouth when the neighbor's children accidentally kicked their ball into her yard. She simply passed it back and nodded. Word spread quickly in Ashi. Mera didn't say anything today. She just smiled and kept walking. Something is wrong. People whispered at first, suspicious, cautious. Some thought she had gone mad. Others thought maybe Mama Sidi had taken her voice. A few even claimed she was just gathering more dangerous gossip by acting quiet. But by the third day they realized this wasn't an act. Mera had changed. Women began to greet her again, lightly at first. Men nodded as she passed. The children who used to run from her now stopped to say hello. And Mera? She replied with a soft smile. No questions, no sharp laughter, just peace. But peace is not always easy, especially when you've trained your mouth to speak like a snake for years. There were moments of temptation, like when she overheard that Pastor Felix's daughter was pregnant and no one knew the father, or when she saw Mama Tawa secretly slipping out of Baba Shege's house in the early morning. Old Mera would have burst from the inside, racing to be the first to report, but new Mera, she would pause, breathe deeply, and say nothing. One evening, as she sat alone beside her hibiscus, Mama Sidi appeared again. No warning, no noise, just like before. She stood by the gate, holding the same small calabash, and watched Mera with those heavy, unreadable eyes. Mera stood immediately and bowed her head slightly. "Mama," she said softly. Mama Sidi stepped forward. "You are learning." Mera nodded. "I didn't realize how much I was hurting people." "You were hurting yourself," the old woman replied. "They were just mirrors." Mera looked at the ground. "I want to do better." Mama Sidi handed her the calabash. Inside was a mix of herbs and white chalk. "Every evening," she said, "wash your mouth with this, not because it is dirty, but to remind your tongue it must now serve healing." Mera took it with trembling hands. "But Mama," she asked, "what if the old me comes back?" Mama Sidi smiled for the first time. Not wide, not dramatic, just soft. "She will come," she said. "She will knock. But now you know, not all doors must be opened." And with that she turned and left. Mera stood by her gate, the hibiscus swaying beside her, the calabash warm in her hands, and for the first time in her life she didn't feel like she needed to be heard. She felt full, not of gossip, but of peace. Weeks passed, and Mera's silence became the new rhythm of the village. At first, people didn't know how to handle it. The woman who used to know everything now knew nothing, or if she did, she no longer spoke it. She became a mystery, the way she once made others mysterious with her twisting of their truths. But over time, Ashi adjusted. Where her voice once scattered tension like wildfire, her calm now spread something unfamiliar: ease. A market woman who used to clutch her chest in fear whenever Mera passed now smiled freely. A couple who once whispered in corners now walked openly, knowing Mera wouldn't twist their story. One sunny afternoon, the pastor's wife, Mama Blessing, approached her at the well. She held a basin, her feet dusty, her eyes curious. "Mera," she said softly, "are you sick?" Mera shook her head, smiling. "No, Ma, just healing." Mama Blessing tilted her head. "You don't even ask questions anymore. What changed?" Mera thought for a moment, then looked up at the sky. "I got tired of being empty, Ma. Talking made me feel powerful. But power is nothing if you can't sleep at night." Mama Blessing stared at her for a while, then nodded slowly. God is working on you." The woman turned to fetch her water, and Mera felt a quiet pride. Not the old kind, the pride of knowing things first, but a new pride. The kind that comes from growth, from choosing restraint when noise would be easier. She still heard things, of course. The village never stopped whispering. Secrets floated in the air like dust. But now Mera treated them differently. She caught them, felt their weight, and then let them go. She became more of a listener. People started sitting with her, not to feed her gossip, but to unload. And for the first time she kept what they said. She became a safe place. Even the children noticed. One afternoon, a small girl named Tinu ran to her crying, clutching a broken bracelet. "Auntie Mera, they laughed at me. They said I'm ugly." Old Mera would have used the moment to ask who said what, which child was rude, and spread it back to their mothers by evening. But new Mera knelt, wiped the girl's tears, and said, "Don't listen to them. Some people speak from the holes, inside them. You're not ugly, Tinu, you're shining." The girl smiled, hugged her, and ran off. That night, Mera sat by her hibiscus again, staring at the moon. Her mother returned that same evening from her trip and noticed the shift immediately. "You're not shouting," her mother said, stepping inside the compound. "No gist," she teased, setting down her bag. Mera laughed, but gently this time. "Mama, I think I've retired from radio service." Her mother paused, narrowed, her eyes playfully. "Eh? Which church did you go to this time?" Mera grinned. "The one inside me." Her mother sat beside her, looked at the hibiscus and then at her daughter's peaceful face. "Whatever you did, keep doing it. You look grown." Mira exhaled slowly. "I met my match, Mama," she said quietly. "Was it a man?" "Her," Mother asked, eyebrows raised. Mira smiled wider. "No, it was truth." That night, Mira dreamed. In the dream, she stood at the center of Ashi, and the wind carried whispers from every corner of the village. But instead of repeating them, she cupped her hands and caught them, then released them gently into the sky, like fireflies. And in the dream, Mama Sidi stood far away, watching. She didn't say a word. She just nodded, once, and disappeared. When Mira woke, there were no voices, no itching, no pressure, just silence. Peaceful, powerful. Her old life had ended, not with noise, but with understanding. And in the quiet that followed, a new one had begun. Morning came gently in Ashi, and with it, a soft golden light poured over the rooftops and danced through the trees. Birds sang again, louder than they had in weeks, as if sensing that something heavy had lifted from the heart of the village. In her compound, Mira stood at her gate, sweeping the dust slowly, thoughtfully. She no longer did it out of performance, like before, where everything was done to be seen, to be noticed, to be talked about. No, this was different now. There was purpose in her every movement, peace in her breath and lightness in her hands. Villagers began to greet her with warmth again, not fear. "Good morning, Mira," children called out. She smiled back. "Morning, my dear ones." "Mira, how is your mother?" a woman from across the street asked. "She's well, thank you," she answered with a respectful nod. They were short, simple exchanges, nothing too deep, nothing too curious. But they were real, no digging, no twisting, just connection. The market women eventually started waving her over. Not with whispers, but with jollof rice, boiled corn, and cheerful jokes. One day, Mama Kulu, the same woman who once told her to ask your flour, called her into the stall. "I have pepper for you," she said. Mira raised a brow. "Why give me pepper? I haven't cooked any story in weeks." Mama Kulu laughed, shaking her head. "Maybe not story, but soup. You can still use your mouth for sweetness, not just spice." It was a joke, a small one. But Mira laughed, not the old sharp laugh of someone looking to reply, but a soft, full laugh from deep inside her. "Thank you, Mama Kulu," she said. "I'll try." And slowly things came full circle, not perfectly. Some people still watched her carefully, wondering if the old Mira would ever return. But she didn't mind. Trust, she knew now, was like a broken pot. You could glue it back, but it took time to hold water again. One afternoon she visited Mama Sidi, not because something was wrong, but because something was right. She found her sitting outside, as calm as the earth beneath her. "You came," the old woman said without looking up. Mira nodded and sat beside her on the mat. They said nothing for a long time, just breathed the same air. The breeze stirred the leaves gently above them. Finally, Mira spoke. "I wanted to say thank you." Mama Sidi looked at her then. "Words are good, child. It's the mouth that misuses them." Mira nodded. "I think I understand that now." The old woman handed her a single seed, small, brown, unremarkable. "Plant this next to your hibiscus, not for protection, not for power, just for growth." Mira took it with both hands. And that evening, under the quiet sky of Ashi, she dug a small hole beside the hibiscus and buried the seed gently, covering it with care. Then she stood up, wiped her hands and whispered, "No more stories from other people's wounds, only lessons from my own." And she meant it. From that day on, people still spoke her name in Ashi, but not with fear, not with anger, not with suspicion. They spoke her name with a kind of softness. "She listens now," they said. "She's different. She grew." And for Mira, who had once believed that her mouth was her greatest power, she now knew something far greater: restraint, reflection, redemption. Not all doors should be opened, not all whispers should be repeated, and not all truths are ours to tell.